I'm not prepared for this live at all because literally 5 minutes ago, okay, a little bit more than 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, President Trump announced that we have completed a very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside the Iranian airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are now safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There's not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is time for peace. Thank you for your attention. Okay, yeah, this is insane. I'll be honest. I'll be completely honest. I was not expecting this. I thought we were moving the planes to Indian Ocean or to, what is it called, Guam, as a negotiating tactic. But then again, if I'm thinking that, Iran's probably thinking that too. So this was a shock. Now, this is where we talk about what happened yesterday. Yesterday, this is what Iran said. Iran said that if the conditions are zero enrichment or war, Iran's going to pick war. So I guess the US got the message loud and clear. Now, one thing I do want to point out to you guys is a lot of people, yeah, I don't know. I was not expecting this at all. I'll get you guys more details in just a second. It's so shocking because I joined into like ABC, Fox, CNN. They haven't even picked up this
Something
news.
was really wrong.
Pretty much.
No one thought this was coming right now. This is where it's insane. Like, it's no one has made any statement. Now we know this morning the B-2s were moving, but like we didn't. Like, think about it. If B-2s are stealth, but they're not invisible. At least that's what I was arguing with my friends just 2 hours ago. Because, like, if someone knows they're coming, they can put the Air Force or their airplanes, jets in the sky to look out for the B-2s. I don't know too much about how high they fly, but I just thought if they knew they were coming, like, it'd be a lot harder for us to carry this out. But this is insane. We went in, we came out, and not a beep. Nothing happened. Nothing. Yeah, this is insane. This is truly insane. Just 5 minutes ago, not 5 minutes ago, just 2 hours ago, we saw President Trump come from a different pace. I don't know where he was, Morristown, New Jersey. He just came to Washington. Okay, 2 hours ago. He went straight to the Situation Room, and we thought he was just going to make a decision if we're going to attack Iran or not. But apparently, that's not why he went to the Situation Room. He was probably monitoring the situation when he went to the Situation Room, and I mean, I don't know. Yeah, we just striked at Iran, JD, and I'm truly shocked. I'm trying to get you guys more information, but I hopped on as soon as I saw the tweet. So I'm learning this as you guys are learning this. This was President Trump coming into Washington, D.C. right 2 hours ago. Like, I'm guessing right when the operation was going on. Because we have to remember, when we went into Yemen, when we went into Afghanistan in 2003 with the B-2s, it was roughly a 2-hour operation. B-2s roam around, and especially with Fordo, we know it probably wasn't going to be just like one bunker buster because it's 300 feet deep. So it was probably going to be 2 or maybe 3 bunker busters. And I was following this all morning that B-2s are flying to Guam, B-2s are flying to Guam. Even White House confirmed it, that, hey, we're repositioning them. Maybe that was a bluff. This is actually insane. Yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, this doesn't really count at all. Shah is tweeting something, the son of Shah. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of the monarchy at all in any country. So I don't know if something's going to happen. I don't think we're going to have a regime change, at least not based on the information we know right now. Maybe something changes, but the Ayatollah is still up. We really haven't had any political U.S. informed. Oh, we know we have another information right here. Someone just tell me. Israeli official just confirmed. The U.S. informed Israel in advance about the attack, and the talks were done in coordination. I wonder how the attack went down. Over the next few days, we'll definitely learn exactly how everything went down, but this is crazy. Let me see if I can find more details right now. I'll just show you guys the Twitter. Sometimes we see crazy stuff on Twitter. I did not wanna just show it that. But so Fox News is a little late, I guess. Play for all the influencers.
Breaking news now is President Trump announcing on Truth Social that the U.S. has successfully bombed sites in Iran.
Is that not insane that we're learning all this on Truth Social? That is crazy. So Natanz, we knew that Israel was targeting already. Esfahan, same thing. We knew Israel was targeting. But the problem is we're just seeing footage of like a fire at these facilities. We don't know if the Israeli stuff, the bombs they're dropping, the bunker busters, we don't know if they're actually getting deep in the ground or not. And that was the big problem, right? With the US bunker busters, with the B-2 bunker busters, we knew 100%. Like if we drop them, it's getting deep. If we drop another one, it's probably reaching the site. But with the Israeli bunker busters, we had no clue. So even though we can see a fire on the top, we don't know if the nuclear facility was actually taken out. Now, another interesting part here, let me see if I can find the tweet. Some anonymous Iranian official said that they actually moved out a lot of stuff from Natanz and Esfahan few months back, because they said they kind of knew that Israel was going to start some kind of war over the nuclear program. So they have a lot of enriched uranium saved somewhere else, stored somewhere else. Now, we don't know how true that is. We have no clue, but let's see. We'll find out. This is actually insane. Wow. You're saying that all the fools thought Trump would wait 2 weeks? I was one of those fools. I did not think we were actually moving the B-2s to go in. I actually thought this was a way to put pressure on Iran so we can come to some kind of deal. I was not expecting us to just go in, come out so easily. That was definitely a surprise.
Bombs was dropped on the primary site for
Low Sol. We probably had to drop 3 on Fordo just based on the unclassified info we know about the bunker busters. They go roughly 200 feet deep, maybe a little less than that. That's unclassified. But a lot of experts basically were saying we drop 1, the B-2s just roam around a little bit. The first one is done, then we drop another one, and that will probably reach the nuclear facility. But if a second one doesn't, we could drop the third one too.
Oh. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is...
Oh, you know what's scary now? They said they're going to go off the U.S. bases. That's where it's like, let's see what happens now. Because that could escalate the war even more. Because as we saw in the last few years, they do have missiles. They don't have a lot of missiles, but they have some missiles that can get through even the U.S. THAAD system. That's one of the best... air defense in the world. So that is insane. Let me pull up the map. Yes, yeah. Iranian, what is it? Nuclear facilities. So we actually saw yesterday, right here. So President Trump just confirmed that we have attacked Fordo, which spelling is different, Natanz and Esfahan. Now we know Iraq. Okay, I don't know how to say it, but it sounds like Iraq. We know Israel attacked this just a few days ago. We actually have footage of that. Let me see if I can pull that up. But this is the map. Hopefully you guys can see. And the Iraq one, Israel actually dropped a bunker buster like a bullseye. Let me see if I can pull the footage. They published the footage of it, so I can show you guys right here. We made it short, so it's gonna be annoying hearing my voice, but this is it. This before and after of. So this is the before, hopefully you guys can see, and after you can see the bunker buster just went straight into the reactor. Iranian nuclear arc facility. Israel just destroyed it dead center. In fact, they also published the video of how they took it out. Let's watch. As you can see, multiple explosions. So far, no radiation detected. So no Chernobyl 2.0. Take a look at this before and after of Iranian nuclear arc. Okay, so this is interesting. Reports out of Iran right now of some of the most heavy wide spectrum jamming of war radios, GPS, cell, and all of that. This was probably US doing something before we went in. Now, I doubt the B-2s. Again, not an expert too much, but I was following this a lot closely probably than most people. And I doubt the B-2s went in alone. I bet we had some kind of support aircrafts going too. Let's see. We have no clue. This was interesting because first time since this whole Israel-Iran war started, I did hear some news about Iranian jets going in the sky in some like secondary cities. Not in Tehran, but other cities. And that's definitely like, I wonder if they knew something was going on. And that's why we have confirmation that the B-2s were involved. But then again, I think we all knew this was going to happen. We're not like Israel wanted us to get involved because of the B-2s. So it's not like we're going to go in without the B-2s. So we knew this was going to happen. Now, no footage has came out. This is interesting. I wonder, I doubt this is some crazy play, right? I doubt. I'm certain there was an attack, right? Because there is no footage. I wonder, we'll get footage in the next few minutes. Because it's only been 20 minutes since the announcement. That's the crazy part. Multiple B-2 stealth bombers were used in America. By the way, we may know the exact number because from this morning, we know 6 of them left the Whiteman base in Missouri this morning. So it's probably 6 bombers. So let's say 2, maybe some of them carried 3 payload. So how much is that? Am I doing the math correctly? Probably 12, 15, 18 payloads were used all in Iran. Insane, insane. This is going to be an interesting operation to learn details about.
This is a Fox News alert. News from the President of the United States that there has been an attack inside Iran. Just moments ago, President Donald Trump putting out on Truth Social, we have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. Again, this from President Donald Trump. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for...
Oh, just a quick pause. We had B-52s at Diego Garcia too, so they definitely played a role. Why is this so weird? Okay.
For your attention to this matter. Again, that's just seconds ago from President Donald Trump on Truth Social, suggesting that those B-2 bombers that perhaps were on the way may have been behind this. We'll get more details on these 3 sites that the president said has been attacked inside Iran. This comes after days of negotiations to try to get Iran to the negotiating table.
Oh, is this end of the war? What do you guys think? I'm going to run a quick poll.
The President of the United States saying it would have to be unconditional surrender, saying enrichment would have to stop. We heard from negotiations in Europe that that was not being accepted by the Iranians, that they would not stop enriching uranium. There was a thought that this could go as long as 2 weeks, as the president said he would decide within 2 weeks. However, 2 days is within 2 weeks. And now word from President Donald Trump that these attacks have happened. Again, interesting that...
You know what's going to be fun? You guys remember when Soleimani was assassinated and Trump gave that speech for an hour long? I wonder if he's going to give a speech right now, because that's going to be definitely interesting.
3 sites have been struck by U.S. bombers. And this, again, we'll get more information about the exact targets and what bombs were used. We expect that the GBU-57, the bunker buster, the massive penetrator...
100% GBU-57s will use MOP because, again, no way. Like, the whole point of U.S. getting involved was that bomb. It was less about, like, the U.S. military power and more about that specific technology. B-2s, of course, because they're the only ones who can carry the bomb, and the bomb itself.
Bomb may have been one of those used. Fordo is a nuclear facility inside Iran that is roughly a half-mile deep underneath a rock mountain-like facility that has been said to be the site of a lot of the enrichment capability. Esfahan, believed to be a storage facility for enriched uranium, and Natanz, another part of the nuclear facilities. They have several throughout Iran. It has been long described as a very difficult and tedious effort to go after these nuclear sites, but the U.S. for the first time launching an attack inside Iran. Again, the President of the United States saying all of the planes are out of Iranian airspace. The bombings do continue by the Israelis inside Iran as this back and forth volley between Israel and Iran has continued for some 2 weeks. We expect to hear more about this operation, not only from the Pentagon, but perhaps from the White House, although the White House this evening, has called a lid, as far as meaning no one will talk after that. That may be changing now. Obviously, we have this Truth Social.
Oh, you know what was
much
interesting?
More detailed analysis to see just how successful this strike on Fordo has been.
This is so funny. President Trump's reposting Twitter accounts.
Some degree of doubt about just how possible it would be for these bunker busters to be able to take out this site.
So this is interesting because President Trump himself, with reports we saw this morning, where he himself was double checking, triple checking with Pentagon to make sure the bunker busters will win. What the hell? His account is not working? No way. Is it my internet?
And targets that are seen to be aligned with America will now be, as far as the Iranians are concerned, fair game. And this is a very, very huge moment of jeopardy.
By the way, we have a poll going on. Be sure to vote on it. Do you guys think this is the end of the war? Because Iranians have talked a lot where they said they will go after the bases, they'll go after Saudi, they'll go after Qatar. If anything happens to their nuclear facility, they're going to consider everyone who helped US, everyone who holds the US base, an enemy. So on top of that, Houthis said they will restart targeting American ships in the Red Sea. You guys remember Operation Rough Riders? We just had that concluded a few months back where B-2s were just going inside Yemen and destroying Houthis. Well, that's the thing. We don't know what Iran can do because then again, some of the targets were hitting inside Israel. But Israel is a lot bigger country than US bases in Middle East. It's a lot smaller area and I'm certain that we can defend it. Interesting thing to remember, by the way, after we took out Soleimani, Iran retaliated by targeting US bases in Iraq and Saudi. I'm not 100% about the Saudi, but I know they retaliated by sending missiles at US bases in Iraq. We were able to take down all of them. We were able to stop all the missiles. So they weren't really able to get through last time, but let's see. All right, I'll play this.
Over the past 4 or 5 days Donald Trump has been briefed over and over again from his military, from his top generals, giving him different options of what he can and can't do. And clearly, over the course of the past 48 hours, he has been given an option that had said, look, if we do this now, and we do it in this order, then there is a chance that we can take out this nuclear site, and that is it. What Donald Trump wants is a quick fix. And as I said, that social media post speaks to just that, a quick fix. We've done it. We've hit them hard.
Okay, Trump is expected to address the nation soon, so we'll stay live. I definitely want to watch this. At 10 p.m., 2 hours from now.
2020,
he just announced.
Donald Trump assassinated, the Americans assassinated.
So I want to show you guys the whole tweet stuff that happened this morning. So he announced this morning, he just announced at 10 p.m. So right now it's 8:20 Eastern, so at 10 he'll start. And let's see. So he tweeted this. Now in the morning, this is what he tweeted. Only time will tell. And this was the clip. I actually haven't seen the clip. So let's see. This was 2 hours ago. So if I were to guess, the operation was ongoing when he was tweeting. He was tweeting this from the Air Force One I think he was traveling back to the United States.
Start with this idea about the 2 weeks. There's been a lot of discussion about it. How do you read it?
I think that Donald Trump has never wavered from the ultimate objective, which is that the Iranian nuclear program has to end. It has to be dismantled. It has to be destroyed. The only question has been whether it's done militarily or whether it's done voluntarily. He gave them a 60-day deadline. They let the deadline pass, and so Israel began bombing on day 61. And now he is basically holding out. This is your last chance. The time for negotiation is over. There's not going to be any kind of deal. This is a question of whether Iran cries Amu, which is Persian for uncle.
Well, not even the proxy group Menace Flow. They have sleeper cells in other countries, and if I were a betting man, I bet they have sleeper cells here in the United States. So that's where it's like, I don't know. Would you guys agree that Iran has nothing to lose? Because there's also the fact that the political leadership is still in power. So if they do start a full-on war with the United States, their positions will be at risk. Right now, they are not at risk, I would say, because President Trump has told Israel that he's not going to accept any political assassinations. Israel actually had a chance to assassinate Khamenei, and Trump said no. Until they kill American citizens, no political assassinations inside Israel. So, yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, like Adam said, we have 4,000 people watching, only 700 likes. Be sure to hit the like button if you guys are enjoying the live stream.
And allows US to come in and blow up Fordo from inside, or we do it from without, from the skies above with B-2 bombers. But I think there is zero chance that the Fordo nuclear facility survives this encounter with Iran.
Here's what President Trump's White House said yesterday about not looking for a ceasefire.
The ceasefire means like everything's going swimmingly, we'll take a little time off. It's not. We're not looking for a ceasefire. We're looking for a total, complete victory. Again, you know what the victory is. No nuclear weapon.
Mark, he's been consistent on that. We've shown that all week. Do you think that the suggestion that there is disgruntlement amongst the ranks of the Republican Party writ large are overblown or on target?
Oh, completely overblown. I mean, the idea that there's a schism in the Republican Party or that the Trump coalition is breaking up is completely absurd. The Reagan Institute is coming out with a new poll this weekend. I've seen the numbers in advance.
Well, actually talking about it, there were a lot of powerful, I guess not powerful, popular speakers who were against this war on both sides. But it was interesting to see. Even I think Vice President Vance was against U.S. involvement. This report came out today, and again, not 100% certainty if this is true, but Reuters were reporting that Vice President was accusing Israel of pushing United States into a war with Israel. Let's see what happens. We do have a lot of bases. This is where another interesting story. And significant change to what we have seen over the last week. Flight trackers are now currently not showing any U.S. military aircraft operating over the Middle East. Now, does that mean everything's just on the ground? I'm guessing that's probably true. Another interesting thing, by the way, a lot of the Middle East bases had aircrafts just out in the open before all this. You guys remember what happened with Russia? They were just storing their aircraft out in the open. So US moved all the aircrafts that didn't have any type of bunker or protected surface to protect them. We moved them out of the Middle East. So that's definitely something. A lot of stuff did look like that we were preparing for an attack, but even then I was thinking like, oh, it's probably going to be like a pressure tactic. Yeah. Let's watch this.
He has announced he will address the nation at 10 p.m. tonight, so that's in 2 hours' time, just under 2 hours' time. He says, I will be giving an address to the nation at 10 p.m. at the White House regarding our very successful military operation in Iran. This is an historic moment, capital letters, an historic moment for the United States of America, Israel, and the world. Iran must now agree to end this war. Thank you. So 2 hours before he gives what I imagine will be an over.
Another thing, utter shock and is sweeping through the IRGC affiliated channels and supporters of Syed Access. One IRGC linked channel wrote, "The United States has declared war on us. This is war. It has officially begun." Well, let's see. I'll bet if we can find a camera
and the Senate Majority
on US
Leader
bases,
were both briefed on the US attacks.
Even if they're not successful, the Iranian leadership has to do something just to show strength. Like after Soleimani, all they did was just throw a bunch of missiles at US bases. None of them got through. But at least for the domestic population that was like, oh, we're fighting back against the United States, they kind of have to do something like that. That's just my thinking.
Bring all this to an end with one night, with one decisive night. But
Someone asked, how quickly can you write a speech for something so devastating? Well, last time when Trump took out Soleimani, he just freestyled the whole speech. He just went up there for an hour. He was just shitting on Soleimani. So Trump can just freestyle the whole thing again.
Would be asking was, what does the next day look like? What does tomorrow look like? What does it look like in a week's time? He doesn't want to know what this looks like in a year's time, because that would mean some kind of prolonged situation. So as you say, and as Ali's been assessing here, that
all the bases in the Middle East are at high alert now.
The line in the sand for things to be settled. Beyond this point, he wants perhaps the Iranians to come back to.
Yeah, I mean, they attacked the base. They attacked U.S. bases, Matthias, but I don't think any of them actually. Oh, I should phrase my thing properly. I don't know if the missiles hit anything. There were no U.S. casualties when Iran attacked after the Soleimani assassination.
On Iran, about 24 people were killed, dozens. Tens and hundreds of people were injured. Buildings were destroyed. In Iran, over 650 people were killed. Thousands of people were injured. And the real concern here was that this would become a prolonged war of attrition that would just carry on.
Yeah, which the Israeli people, who I think, generally speaking, I felt have been behind this war. The Israeli public has been incredibly divided over and many years now, even over the war in Gaza recently.
So this is what Iranian officials said. It is easier for Iran to attack U.S. bases in the Middle East than to strike Israel, and they've been striking Israel for the last few days. I wonder if that played a role, because. I wonder if Israel getting lone interceptor played a role in U.S. getting involved so quickly. Because the longer this drags on, it's also not good news for Israeli citizens, because the air defense is doing a good job, but some of the missiles were getting through and they were dealing devastating damage. So it wasn't good for the citizens on both sides. There were casualties in Iran, citizen casualties. I saw some number as high as 1,500 people died in the recent strikes, and then there are also reports in Israeli side people dying.
So, if Donald Trump is able to say to the Israelis today, right, that's pretty much it now, bring your fighter jets home, enough, and if the Iranians don't, if they don't attack in such a way that means this spills into something greater, then I think there'll be a great deal of satisfaction within the Israeli government and the Israeli people that the job is done.
Israel has known for several days, again, this is coming from Israeli media, they have, I don't know, now that we did get involved, maybe they weren't lying, because there was this channel called, Israeli channel called Channel 12, and they were saying a lot of stuff, that it was like US has already decided they're going to get involved, everything. Looking back, they're right, but at the point I was really thinking like, oh, maybe they're not reporting properly. But this is what another Israeli media just said. Israel has known for several years that Trump is on board, and yet Israel and the United States have together created the feeling that there are disagreements in the American leadership in order to lull the enemy. There have been reports of tense conversations and of talks that are supposed to take place next week. The goal to prevent the Iranians from rushing to take action that would minimize the damage from the attack. I don't know how true this is, because if I was Iran, considering the situation they were in, I would be moving stuff out already. I wasn't going to like just sit around and wait for the talks next week, because I don't think Iran was doing that. But then again, Iran had a chance yesterday to get a deal done. Yesterday, the Iranian foreign minister went to Geneva, Switzerland, right? And he had a hours-long negotiation with the EU delegation that consisted of UK, France, Germany, and I think even a EU commissioner. And Iran basically didn't budge at all. The UK foreign minister went to the United States before meeting with Iran, and he knew what the US wanted. He let Iran know what the US wanted. And it was pretty simple. Zero enrichment. US had no problem with Iran having a civilian nuclear program. Only thing US was asking, like, hey, get your uranium from other countries. Russia, China, all these Iranian allies could sell uranium, but Iran was like, they weren't willing to budge on that one thing. They said if it's a decision between uranium or war, Iran picks war. There you go. I guess they got what they wanted. It is insane. Let's join into this real quick.
Really hate. I'm going to tell you that doesn't always work the way you hope it works. But with this thing taking out the nuclear capability of Iran for the regime, this is a truly devastating blow. Which is now they don't have this on the table,
guys.
And a lot of people are going to be looking at the regime and say, well, what do they have now? What could Iran possibly do other than just sit there and constantly get bombed by the Iranian Air Force unhindered? What can Iran do? And really what they can do, strategically speaking, is now extremely limited. And
we know exactly when this happened. So this is where it's insane.
Depending on what else is.
New York Times reports that Iranian officials are saying that the U.S. military carried out nuclear facility bombing at 2:30 a.m. Iran local time. What is the Iran time right now? Iran time right now. It's 4 a.m. So roughly 1.5 hours ago when all of this happened. So I'm guessing as soon as it got done, he tweeted, which kind of makes sense, but. How fast do B-2s fly? Because as soon as they got out, as soon as the B-2s got out of the country, he started, they fly 600 miles an hour. Okay. As soon as they got out, Trump announced it.
Iran must agree to end this war. End how? Does that seem like something Iran would do after something like this?
At this point, I'm sure they're talking about that right now. Now, the only terms of ending the war that I've heard Donald Trump put out is unconditional surrender. That's pretty strong talk. That's what we did with Japan and Germany at the end of World War II.
Look at this.
Haven't been a lot of unconditional surrender wars, so he has put that out there. Now, with that said, most think that we'd be willing to back off of an unconditional surrender, and I think the Israelis would be certainly willing to see Iran back off of an unconditional surrender. But really what has happened kinetically, militarily, is that the core issue that started the war, that got this thing going, that core issue has been maybe not completely removed, but largely removed. Of course, the fear is that Iran will then try to come up with some other way to create weapons of mass destruction. And we certainly have seen that historically in the Middle East. Don't forget, Iraq tried to create a nuclear warhead. All WMD issues with 2003 aside.
Which is where it's insane, because a lot of people are saying we shouldn't do this because Iran's a superpower, they're going to take out the B-2s, and they kept comparing it to the Iraq war. Now looking back, the WMD thing, everything, that was definitely a mistake, but we did win the Iraq war. Like, Iraq wasn't some military superpower that US suffered. The after the fact was the big problem. The war was pretty quick.
Understand has been bombed by those U.S. B-2 bombers tonight. Also Isfahan, as well as Natanz. Natanz had another underground facility. Remember, before Fordo was built in 2006, Natanz had been the main enrichment site. It was also built underground. Israeli jets had been targeting it in the last week, but they had not been able to penetrate underground. So those U.S. B-2 bombers, which flew out of Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, they would have taken out that underground facility. Natanz is interesting. You'll remember, Brett, it was the site of the Stuxnet virus, the cyber attack on those centrifuges years ago. But again, it was back up and running. And what is surprising, I think, tonight is that the president...
Oh, this is insane. Guys, look at that. Because do you guys remember when the Osama bin Laden raid was going on? People on Twitter were like saying, oh, something big is about to happen in Pakistan. They were tweeting about like, oh, I just saw, like, Pakistani people were tweeting like, oh, I just saw a US helicopter or some big helicopter. Well, President Trump announced at 7:45 that the attack happened. Okay, this guy was reporting at 30 minutes before that. Reports indicate a terrifying sound was heard in the Isfahan atomic energy. This is insane, because on Twitter, I'm sure people were reporting before any announcement.
Announced that it was not one site, but 3 underground sites and sites inside Iran's nuclear program that were struck by the U.S. Air Force tonight.
Yeah, and it is something. We'll go back to that Truth Social, and eventually, Control Room, if we can put it up there just so that everybody can see it on the screen. The fact that this, first of all, this announcement comes from Truth Social. This is a president who has put out a lot of announcements, big announcements through Truth Social, and this is the biggest of them, probably his biggest decision. The very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites, as you said, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, getting very specific there. And the payload, he says a full payload of bombs dropped on the primary site, Fordo. That suggests, Jennifer, as we had been saying for many days, that they may have made several passes at Fordo, considering that the experts were saying that just one probably wouldn't have gotten to the heart of
peace through strength. That's the policy U.S. is now taking on. I actually have a little bit more clips. The operational security was insane this time. By the way, there were hints. Looking back, I guess hindsight is a perfect science. So this is what I'm doing. Looking back, this was the first security meeting I think the CIA head was at. I'm forgetting his name, but he was in the Situation Room after President Trump landed, and that's definitely unique. He wasn't there before earlier meetings that Trump has been having for the whole week, but he was there today. So if you really wanted to figure out, I guess someone could have figured it out.
More, according to the president. The other thing I can point out, Brett, is that this is an operation in the last 18 years since I've been at the Pentagon. I've never seen such operational security. There was nobody speaking about this, any of the preparations. There was a complete lockdown, almost a blackout of information for the last few days. I'm sitting here in the Pentagon right now. I can tell you the hallways are empty, and all of the information is coming right now out of the White House. That is a significant achievement because there were no leaks about the timing. Now, sometimes I think those who, a lot of the flight trackers, the open source intelligence flight trackers, that flight radar did indicate some of when the B-2s took off from Whiteman. But again, Nobody really expected that it would take place this evening. If you looked at the moon schedule, you might have had a clue because it was a waning crescent and almost a new moon on the 25th. So it would have been very, very dark over Iran tonight, and you need that in order to bomb. That's the ideal condition for something like a B-2 that is, yes, it's stealth, but it still has to be escorted in case any Iran were to put up any planes or there were any.
My brother was following this whole thing, and he just got on the plane like a few hours ago. He has no clue this went down.
Opportunities to fire on those B-2s, which are such valuable and very, very special planes. Only the U.S. military has this kind of weaponry and this capability. No other country in the world could have carried off.
By the way, many people have speculated the B-2s and even the bunker busters, the 30,000-pound ones, they were built specifically for Iranian nuclear facilities that were deep underground. So they were used what they were built for, and it was a success. Again, we'll find out. I do have one clip actually of the attack. Did it get deleted? Okay, it was probably fake news if it got deleted.
What occurred tonight at those 3 uranium enrichment sites in Iran.
Yeah, Jen, you're exactly right on the operational security here and the fact that there were obviously some red herrings, and in a world where decisions are made and the world digests the decision even before it's made because of social media and everyone's watching everywhere, this was a pretty amazing operation. When you start thinking that the president said within 2 weeks, we are 2 days from within 2 weeks, and this happens with a post on Truth Social and no other word really getting out ahead of that is pretty stunning.
Ooh, IRGC just announced the war has begun against the United States. Now, I don't know about you guys, if you lose your strongest weapon, I feel like the war is over. I wouldn't say it just begun, but different country, maybe the culture is different. This is still insane. This guy was like 30 minutes early on the whole thing. That's
American airbase in the Middle East. That was incidentally somewhere that Donald Trump visited just a few weeks ago. And you know, Yalda, that's kind of a side point, but another point. It is extraordinary that just a month ago, Donald Trump was in the Middle East preaching peace, preaching investment, and saying that the days of American involvement in faraway Middle Eastern wars were over. And yet look where we are now. Now, he would argue that he was forced to take this one-off strike and that it will be a one-off. We will see. That's what he will claim, I'm sure. But the immediate danger, the immediate jeopardy is the American assets in the region, whether they be military, whether they be diplomatic, or whether they be soft American targets across the region. That is the big challenge now as we wait to see if and how Iran responds to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, I'll keep you there and bring in...
For people just joining in, I just saw a message. President Trump announced roughly an hour ago from this exact point that we conducted successful attacks on Iran's 3 nuclear facilities, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All B-2s, all planes were outside the Iranian airspace when the announcement was made. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. Now, what does that mean? Full payload means 2 bombs or more? I don't know. All planes were safely coming back home. This is the craziest part. This is so interesting, at least to me. The B-2s never touched down anywhere. They took off from Missouri. They flew all the way. They dropped the payload. Now they are flying back. Of course, they had the area refueling, but they never touched down anywhere. They go all the way. They come back. Like, that's insane technology. It is crazy. And they look insane. I know. I've seen some videos, and B-2s just truly look insane. There's not another military in the world that could have done this. Exactly right.
Things in that region, but primarily there. In the Persian Gulf.
Yeah, Street. I've seen that too. B-2s can carry three MOPs. I don't know how accurate that was, but if they did carry 3, so maybe that's what he means, full payload. It is insane.
That is a couple of aircraft carrier task forces. I believe the second one is probably in place now. I'm sure that would have been part of the planning. I know they were steaming out there at a fairly fast rate. So that's in place. So you have those two aircraft carriers. There was supposed to be a third aircraft carrier that was going to go into the Eastern Mediterranean. So we may have that as well. Then we have all the stuff that's
keep that
at our bases. You know, we've got a lot of F-16s, a lot of other aircraft in the area.
By
we
the
got
way,
a lot of
new report. Let me show you. The Islamic Republic of Iran state media says that the 3 nuclear sites bombed by the United States had personnel evacuated some time ago. Not sure what that means. I don't know if they were able to evacuate the nuclear, what is it called, the centrifuges and all, but I doubt they were. I'm sure Israel would have known if they did, because it is insane the amount of reach Israel has, especially in the Middle East.
And we're probably coordinating with all of our Middle East allies, particularly those between Iran and Israel, to keep all their air defense capabilities ready to go, and particularly in those countries where we have U.S. bases, should Iran decide to go that direction. I would mention that Iran has gone that direction before.
I just saw. Thank you so much for $5. Mythmark Oxymore. Yeah, I don't think this is over. What do you guys think? Because Iran has said a lot of things. Let me see if I can pull it up right here. First of all, Houthis said they will start attacking Red Sea, like the U.S. ships in Red Sea, and they can't really tell which ship is which. Because last time when they said they will attack Israeli ships, they couldn't really tell which ship is which. They were just attacking every ship. But they also said this morning that they will start attacking U.S. ships if U.S. attacks Iran. And we have, on top of that, Iran has been very, very vocal about attacking U.S. bases and even going after like other countries. Because last time they went after the Saudi oil fields and oil companies for some reason, so they might try doing that too. But again, if Iran does all that, it's just going to isolate them even more. Because if Iran attacks Saudi has allies outside of the United States too. Of course, the closest ally is the US, but they're pretty friendly with Russia, pretty friendly with China. Iran's just going to keep getting isolated if they keep going crazy.
Or how big the resources are that are being put under his command while this thing is underway.
What are you going to be listening for whenever we eventually hear from Israeli officials? What are you going to be listening for from Benjamin Netanyahu eventually?
I'm going to be listening for whatever he says. I'm actually kind of curious where he thinks this thing's going, where he thinks the U.S. involvement is. I'm going to be curious to hear if somewhere in his discussion he's presuming that the U.S. is going to take a greater role.
We have more details on the operation. Let me pull that up. Approximately 30 GBU-57s, those were the bunker buster bombs that were dropped in Iranian underground nuclear facility in Fordo. How would that even work? Let's say each is carrying 3. I don't know if this is true. Yeah, this is not true. We had 6 B-2s go. Let's say even if they were carrying 2 each, we couldn't really drop 30. Okay, I apologize for showing that to you guys. As I said, I'm learning all this as I'm telling you guys. So this is like a very, very breaking news. No, 30 was fake, Jay. 30 was not it.
They knew the United States has the capability to destroy its nuclear program, but they've always doubted that the U.S. had the will to do so. If you listen closely to Iranian officials over the years, they have always doubted that the military...
See, I have heard 2, and just today, I also heard that B-2s can carry maybe 3. Maybe. I'm not 100%, but I just heard. Again, all the information we have is unclassified information. There could be information that's still classified, we don't know. But it's impossible that it was 30. It could be 2, 3.
We have been hearing from the Israelis that they have struck Natanz, for example, and Isfahan at a different time. We heard that they had done that. Talk us through why Fordo was so significant and why it needed American intervention.
Fordo was very significant because it was buried in a mountain, and the United States developed a bomb, the massive ordnance penetrator, to pierce that mountain and destroy the nuclear facility. And so that is why Fordo was highly significant for the U.S. to strike, because Israel did not necessarily have the same capabilities that the United States had to do so, like the massive ordnance penetrator and the B-2 as the delivery vehicle for that bomb. So that is why it's significant, and the Fordo nuclear facility was one that was untouched amid Israel's campaign around Iran militarily that had started a few days ago. Israel had taken strikes at Natanz and Isfahan. It looks like the United States had also taken strikes at Natanz and Isfahan to clean up and make sure.
By the way, we were tweeting too. Apparently, our Twitter is on point. Explosions were reported near Fordo earlier, and this was on 7/20. The President Trump announced the strike on 7:50, so roughly 30 minutes ago. So if you guys are not following Business Basics on Twitter, this right here is the account. Definitely go check it out. I'll put it in the comments. I would not say this is putting American lives at risk.
That was going to be the case. I think that the U.S. and Israel likely have very good intelligence on the ground, and I think Israel has proven that over the last week as to where these materials are. And so I think that was part of the strike package in ensuring those materials were destroyed alongside the sites that President Trump announced in his post.
We did hear the Iranian state TV say that everyone from all three sites are evacuated. I don't know why they would say that, but other than that, we haven't had any confirmation from them.
Rather limited in what they could do, but this has been a discussion that goes back if Iran was ever to be hit, which is taking out the Iranian Air Force, just eliminate their capability altogether. Now, the F-14s are not a particularly capable bird in the modern air environment, but eliminating them as a component of the Iranian force structure sends a big message to Khamenei, because I don't think he and his revolutionary council, shall we say, that theocratic, autocratic leadership, they probably imbue some of their stuff with more capabilities than they actually have, militarily speaking. So it's sometimes important to send a message to say, you don't have this anymore. It's off the table. It's gone. The other thing that potentially, the U.S. or Israel could do is basically take out the Iranian Navy. That's another option. That's actually an achievable thing to do. There's not that many Iranian naval combatants out there, and they could be eliminated. And so you take out the Air Force and the Navy, and I would point out that there is not much of anything that Iran can do with its army. And all of a sudden, Iran doesn't really have a military to respond to anything else happening. And so I think it sends a message to Iran, to the leadership of Iran. Obviously, it makes for some pretty spectacular video, as you see here. But
do B-2s capture these footage, or is this coming from like a reconnaissance drone? Because I would love to see the footage. U.S. released the footage of the nuclear sites.
Been briefed by European diplomats over the course of the past few days who have been speaking to Donald Trump.
Jay, I don't think U.S. is going to go after the supreme leader, because Trump said just a few days ago Israel actually had an opening on the first night of the operation to assassinate the supreme leader, and Trump said unless Iran takes out American citizens, there's not going to be any political assassinations. So that doesn't just mean the supreme leader, even the president, the foreign minister, all of them. Israel had a chance to assassinate, but the U.S. was against it. So far, only assassinations we have seen from Israeli agents and Israeli strikes is the IRGC leaders and the nuclear scientists. In fact, Israel had a list of top 10 nuclear scientists who were instrumental in the Iranian nuclear program. And all of them were taken out on the first night, within the 15-minute mark. Israel wanted to make sure that one scientist dying doesn't spook the other scientist. So all of them were taken out within 15 minutes. So no one could warn other people. No one could protect other people, basically.
The story goes, was given by his generals a range of options, and the most extreme option of that range of options of how to retaliate to Iranian attacks on Americans, the most extreme option was to assassinate Qasem Soleimani. And Donald Trump looked at it and he said, I think I'll go for that one, and went for the really extreme option. It surprised even the generals that he'd gone for that.
Okay, so this is insane. So this is coming from Iranian Arabic channel. If you can read Arabic, you could probably read what that is, but I'm going to go with the English translation. Tehran had already emptied the 3 of its nuclear sites some times ago. This is just me speculating now, but if that was the case, Israel would have known. Just me speculating, because Israel just has so many spies on Iran. Because this is something interesting that all the proxies in Middle East do too. Whenever like just a few months ago when we had Operation Rough Rider going on in Yemen, US would like strike some building and they would take out some commander. Then the Houthis would make an announcement saying, hey, this commander just died of a heart attack. So it's like they never want to give credit to anything US related. So they would always just make up the lie. They were like, oh yeah, that guy, he was in the building that got striked, but he just died from a heart attack. Nothing to do with the US strike at all. That's just the habit they have, I guess.
DC, but we've been hearing bits and pieces from Donald Trump through Truth Social. We've also just received what looks like the first confirmation on the Iranian side, based on what Reuters is reporting and citing Tasnim news agency. An Iranian official has confirmed that part of Fordow nuclear site was attacked by, quote, enemy airstrikes. So that's the first confirmation that we're getting from the Iranian side. An Iranian official being cited by Tasnim news agency and reported by Reuters confirms that part of Fordow nuclear site was attacked. And Mark, I guess it goes to your point in terms of we still don't know. It's the early hours. Only about an hour ago, this attack was launched by the United States. We'll have to wait and see in terms of the extent of the damage and whether, the B-2 bombs that they used, and we'll know more about how many and...
No, this is where it's also, like, it's just not believable that they empty out the facility. Because you can't just take it out and move it. You need to build all the stuff that's like temperature controlled and stuff to move the centrifuges and stuff. And once they are set up, it's like they have to keep running. If you don't run them, I think they start degrading very fast. So it's not like you can just take it out and put it somewhere else. And to move something like that, I'm sure Israel would know.
You know, the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, has repeatedly says that nuclear sites should not be targeted because of the dangers of leaks, of some mass casualty event.
Oh yeah, there is a risk of like Chernobyl 2.0.
Remember, this was the site where Iran had apparently enriched uranium to 60%, which is highly enriched uranium. So that there are significant dangers of striking nuclear sites. You'd assume that the Americans would take those.
This is what the Islamic state media is saying. Reports that there has been no risk of radiation leakage. But again, it's the same media that's also saying they moved everything out. They moved everything out.
Out of the Middle East. We also expect that President...
I don't understand why he wouldn't give the speech at 9. 10 is so far.
It will be difficult to find out. It will be compounded by the fact that there is pretty much a complete internet blackout across Iran at the moment. So information will be hard to get. I imagine the first sort of sense we will get will be satellite imagery that will be released as soon as the Americans can to prove from their perspective that this was a successful strike.
Ali, just bringing you in and just following up on what we were just discussing there. Reuters citing Tasnim news agency confirming that part of Fordow, a nuclear site, was attacked by what they've said is enemy airstrikes. Another Iranian official cited by Fars news agency says that they witnessed attacks near Isfahan and Natanz nuclear facilities. So confirming those three sites that Donald Trump said in his Truth Social post that they had been targeted. Iranian officials are starting to come out and confirm that some kind of attack had taken place.
Yeah, it's taken them a bit of time. I mean, interesting that it was the Americans who first announced this news and announced it.
We'll pause it real quick. I have this clip I want to play.
Clearly tonight, President Trump ordering these strikes against the Iranian regime's nuclear program because there was no off-ramp for diplomacy at this point. There was that 60-day window that President Trump gave the Iranians to come to the table. 5 rounds of conversations, most of them taking place in Oman, with Steve Witkoff, President Trump's Middle East envoy, other top American officials meeting directly and indirectly with their Iranian counterparts, but the Iranians did not want to finish a deal. And ultimately, the decision was made by Israel.
This is interesting. I do want to tell you, the Iranian foreign minister today came out and said, hey, we're not going to negotiate until Israel keeps striking us. we don't want to negotiate until the strikes are going on. We are at war. We are treating this as war. And then he says, it's not us who's starting these negotiations. It's the United States who's been calling up Iran to have some kind of negotiations. So if US really wants to negotiate, they should tell Israel to stop the strikes. I'm guessing it was all like a deception campaign where the US was calling up Iran to negotiate, all the while the preparations were going through for the B-2 strikes.
To launch this operation that has led to a war developing between the two countries. And then again tonight, the Americans getting directly involved, launching these strikes with those bombers over Iranian territory. We will certainly learn more information as daylight comes tomorrow in the region. But the bottom line here is that a decision was made that will change the reality of the current war between Israel and Iran, and possibly create a scenario where the Iranians really have no other option than to give in. Because the president has hit them so hard with these strikes, and the Israelis are continuing to take out their top military leadership, that the country is in a state of disarray. And so the bottom line here is that these strikes tonight show not only solidarity with the American ally in the Middle East, Israel, but also they show that the region is at a crossroads here. There are clear decisions that will have to be made by the regime officials that are still alive and by the country's supreme leader and the country's president, Masoud Pezeshkian. And so certainly...
Yeah, where is the Iranian president? I haven't seen him make a single statement. Even Ayatollah made a statement. We see the foreign minister, we see Khamenei, but we don't see the president at all.
More hours ahead, we'll learn that information. But again, the bottom line...
Also, the interesting part is, like, I'm just reading this, how North Korea got it, and they were running the same playbook. They were saying, hey, we want to enrich uranium in the country to basically have a civilian nuclear program, right? That's what North Korea was publicly saying, and that's how they were able to get the nuclear weapon. So it's like, clearly, the world has learned their lesson. They don't want the same mistake to repeat. That's why US was pushing so heavily for Iran to have the nuclear program. They can have a civilian program, but they just cannot have the uranium enrichment facilities inside the country. They can just buy uranium from other countries. But Iran did not want to give up that condition. So you could see why they did not want to give it. Also, another interesting point, and of course, US has some facilities that are deep underground here in the United States too, but Iran's all the nuclear facilities were deep underground. If they didn't want to build a nuclear weapon, like, why would they put it so protected?
Line tonight is that the decision was made by President Trump to take out, in effect, these nuclear facilities that the Iranians were using to enrich uranium closer and closer to weapons-grade material. You might remember back during the nuclear deal that President Trump pulled out of in 2018, the Iranians were enriching uranium at 3.67%. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, they were enriching uranium close to 60% purity, getting very, very close to a weapons-grade purity, which would give them the component that they would need to create a nuclear weapon. And so this is a historic moment in the Middle East tonight, and again, an opportunity for the region, as the president laid out in his statement, for peace in the future, because this is a region that understands peace through strength. Brett?
This is a region that understands peace through strength. I wanted to show you guys this statement that the Iranian foreign minister made. So he was in Geneva yesterday negotiating with the EU, and this is what he said after that.
Diplomacy can work. It worked in the past and it can work in the future. But in order for us to come back to diplomacy, the aggression should be stopped. It is obvious I cannot go to negotiation with the United States when our people are under bombardments, under the support of the United States. We have come, unfortunately, to the conclusion that the United States has been in this aggression from the beginning. You know, they deny. They keep saying that they are not involving, but we have many indications that they have been involved from day one.
Okay, that was a little low, and it was only in the 1 year, but that's how the video was, not me.
Talk here following that Truth Social post that Donald Trump put out about an hour ago.
So we are roughly 1 hour away from President Trump's speech. 1 hour. That's a lot of time. Yeah.
Nuclear sites in Iran. All eyes will be on the rest of the region now, where you are, military bases where you are, because of course we saw...
Okay, we actually have some confirmation from an Iranian official. Not the full confirmation. They haven't confirmed Fordo yet, but this is what he said. Quoting an Iranian official, a news agency just said, "We witnessed attacks at Esfahan and Natanz nuclear sites." Not the Fordo, that's the main site. That was the deepest one. That's where they had the uranium enrichment plants. So far, no confirmation from Iran. A lot of old videos going around on Twitter. So if you guys are on Twitter, be careful of that. A lot of people posting old videos saying, oh, this is the video of the recent strikes, but it's not.
Will be attacked. What's interesting, and obviously we're only getting this from sources, that it is virtually empty. We're told that there is nobody there anymore, and there is an expectation that it could be attacked quite shortly, actually. And then a number of military bases in the region could be attacked. Now, there are 4 in Erbil, which is where I am. There's one actually just a few miles.
By the way, this is another official statement from Iran. Some spokes of a Qom crisis management headquarters. I think this is one of their military wing. Not 100%, but that's what I think. After air defenses in Qom were activated, hostile targets identified, the part of Fordo nuclear site was attacked. Some confirmation. I doubt they're going to be honest about exactly how much the damage was, but I think some confirmation for sure.
Here, and it has relations obviously with the United States, with all this incredible history over the last 20 years or so, and yet it has a government that leans towards Iran, and it has a huge number of very powerful Shia militia groups here who will be absolutely incensed by everything that's happened in the last week or two, and have been saying and have been pushing the government to firstly close the airspace here, which they actually couldn't, but Israeli jets have been passing in the skies above us, which has been annoying them. And they have been warning for some days now that if there is an attack by the United States on Iran, then they will be wanting to get involved, and that will mean attacking embassies, bases, but also...
Actually, Eddie, I think we had some unconfirmed reports that Iran may have S-400s, but they're just not useful against F-35s. And I doubt they're useful against B-2s too if they don't detect F-35s. But also another important thing to keep in mind is Israel was able to destroy a lot of air defenses Iran has just through ground operations on the first day. Like, people were literally just throwing drones from like other Iranian buildings and destroying air defenses.
They would like to see the regime change. So there's a divided opinion, but politically it's very, very difficult for this country, but it has to, I think it's almost unique, has to keep both sides on board. It has been doing to a certain degree, but
we got some confirmation. So we had 6 B-2s go to Iran. We know that because that's what we had take off from the Whiteman base in Missouri this morning. So Sean Hannity, who kind of has a direct line to president, just confirmed that 6 bunker-busting bombs were dropped on Fordo. That's the main facility right here. That's the main one. 6 bunker-busting. So that could be 3 B-2s just went for Fordo, and the other 3 went for the 2 other sites. So 3 B-2s just went to Fordo, other 2 went for Esfahan and Natanz. So that's the confirmation we have so far.
That Trump spoke to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this evening after the United States dropped those bombs on the Iranian nuclear sites. That is according to a senior White House official. We know that they've been speaking every day since this began just over a week ago. But we now have confirmation that they have spoken. Donald Trump has not been in Washington today. He left Washington, left the White House last night for Bedminster, his golf course in New Jersey. But he always had planned, we had his schedule, and he was always due back to the White House tonight at 6 p.m., so 3 hours ago. Now, what we understood from that was that he was coming back, and we were told he was coming back for a briefing of his Security Council in the Situation Room. But we did not expect that would be the point at which he would, in fact, not just authorize these strikes, because presumably that happened a few hours before that, but would have watched these strikes taking place in real time from the Situation Room. So a remarkable turn of events over the course of the past 24 hours. It was just yesterday that he, through his press secretary, announced that he would give diplomacy up to 2 weeks to run its course. And, you know, I've been looking back at messages I've had and discussions I've had with...
Let's listen to Trey Yanks again.
Back to Trey Yanks with an update on the ground in Tel Aviv. Trey?
Yeah, Brett, just 8 minutes ago, Israel's Home Front Command announced they have changed the restrictions for civilians. They had previously lifted some of them, allowing gatherings in public. People could go to the beaches, and some workplaces were open. Tonight, a directive from Israel's Defense Minister, Israel Katz, changing all of this to essential activity only. This means that workplaces tomorrow in Israel will be closed. There will be no school. There will be no public gatherings, and people will be encouraged to stay within walking distance of bomb shelters, understanding that Iran could respond at any moment. We have seen these types of instructions go out to the public in the past when Israel was bracing for an immediate Iranian response, and they have often saved lives. Even tonight, given the change in restrictions, there are already people underground in shelters in some parts of this city of Tel Aviv, Israel's second largest city, bracing for the possibility of that response. This statement that we just received from the IDF says the public is required to follow the instructions published on the official Homefront Command channels. Full instructions will be updated on the National Emergency Portal. This describes what Israel is facing right now, Brett, a national emergency. The country is in a state of emergency. If there is any sort of Iranian attack, like we've seen over the past 9 days, these waves of ballistic missiles, there will alerts be sent out to phones across this country. People will then quickly head to shelters. They have anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, generally, when these alerts come in, before the sirens start to sound across these major population centers, and then the ballistic missiles target the cities. We have stood on this balcony and in other places in Tel Aviv, watching as these missiles get intercepted overhead. Remember, as we speak, there are advanced...
So President Trump is going live in like 50 minutes.
Missile defense systems deployed across this country. Israel's Arrow 2 and 3 system, along with the David Sling system. And then, of course, the American ships that are out at sea and the Patriot missile defense system on the ground, along with a THAAD system that is out a little bit further away from population centers. And so there are many different systems deployed at this moment, preparing for the possibility of an Iranian response. But these systems are not perfect. More than 24 people have been killed in the Iranian attacks against Israel over the past 9 days, and the devastation in some areas of Israel has been catastrophic. But we've heard from top Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, indicating that Iran will pay a price for targeting all of these residential areas, for launching missiles into apartment buildings, into hospitals, and killing innocent civilians. And so we expect, while Israeli officials remain on the defensive tonight, preparing the country, along with this alert that we just received from Israel's Homefront Command, by restricting the movement of civilians, they're also preparing once again to...
Yeah, we'll be live listening to Trump.
...go on offense. And I'm texting right now with military officials who say they do expect some sort of statement from the IDF following President Trump's remarks at the White House tonight. Other officials, again, reacting tonight to this news that President Trump has made the decision to strike Iranian nuclear facilities. Brett?
Trey Yingst on the ground in Tel Aviv. Trey, thank you.
That's still crazy. Let's see. I have more news I want to show you guys real quick. Not a great day for Russia. Assad down in Syria, Fordo in flames. Can't depend on a Russian alliance.